There comes a point in life when you realize you cannot fight every battle, answer every opinion, or entertain every distraction. That's the moment you step into your true strength. Not by adding more to your life, but by removing what doesn't deserve you. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention. Notifications, unsolicited advice, criticism from people who have never built what you're building. It's endless. But here's the truth, not everything deserves a reaction. In fact, most things don't. The ability to selectively ignore isn't weakness, it's a master skill. It's knowing where your energy belongs, and more importantly, where it doesn't. Selective ignoring is not about arrogance. It's about clarity. It's about identifying the voices, habits, and patterns that derail you and cutting them off at the root. You cannot align with your true self while feeding the noise that was never meant to guide you. When you give your time to every opinion, you dilute your power. When you respond to every provocation, you hand over your control. And when you seek validation from those who do not share your vision, you drift further from your purpose. Alignment is a straight road. Noise is the detour. Ask yourself, who or what gets access to your mind? Because your mind is the control room of your life. Guard it. Treat it like sacred ground. There is no prize for being available to everything. The prize comes when you focus so intensely on what matters that the irrelevant fades into the background. Here's the hard part: selective ignoring requires courage. You have to be okay with people misunderstanding you. You have to accept that some will call you cold, distant, or arrogant. But understand this, those labels are given by those who benefited from your distraction. The moment you reclaim your focus, you stop feeding what doesn't serve you, and that will make some people uncomfortable. But that's the cost of alignment. True alignment doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from honoring your values, your goals, and your peace. It comes from knowing that your worth is not up for debate and your energy is not for sale. So starting today, cut the noise, ignore the petty. Turn away from the endless pull of meaningless demands. Because the less you react to the small, the more power you have for the great. Your time, your mind, and your purpose are finite. Spend them like gold. Now, draw your line. Protect your focus. Selectively ignore what doesn't serve your mission. And step into the unstoppable force you were always meant to be. Not everything deserves your attention. The truth is, in this fast, moving, hyper-connected world, you are constantly bombarded with demands for your time, your focus, and your emotional energy. Every day, your phone lights up with notifications, messages, opinions, and alerts, and each one pulls at you, demanding that you respond right away. The voices are endless, people giving you their opinions about how you should live, what you should do, who you should be. But if you try to engage with all of it, you will end up exhausted, scattered, and far from where you want to be. This is why you have to master the art of filtering what truly deserves your attention and what does not. Not every conversation needs to be joined. Not every problem needs to be solved by you. Not every person's criticism is worth your time to address. The moment you begin to understand this, you start reclaiming your most valuable resources, your energy, your peace, and your focus. When you react to every little thing, you dilute your own power. Think of your attention like a beam of light. The more scattered it is, the weaker it becomes. But when it's focused, it becomes a laser, capable of cutting through the toughest obstacles. Every time you give away your focus to something unimportant, you're allowing your light to scatter into 1,000 tiny rays that never make an impact. The strongest people you've ever met, the ones who seem calm, unshakable, and intentional, are not like that because life never challenges them. They are like that because they have mastered the discipline of selective attention. They have learned to filter out the noise and focus only on what actually moves them toward their purpose. This doesn't mean you become cold or uncaring. It means you become intentional. There's a difference between ignoring people out of arrogance and ignoring distractions out of wisdom. When you understand your values and your priorities, it becomes easier to see which things are simply trying to pull you away from your path. Every moment you spend defending yourself against meaningless opinions is a moment stolen from building what matters. Every time you get caught in petty conflicts, you've given away emotional energy that could have been used to create, to grow, or to move forward. Most of the noise around you is just that, noise. It's not meant to help you. It's not meant to guide you toward your vision. In fact, a lot of it exists to keep you stuck, to provoke a reaction, or to make you question yourself. If you spend your life reacting to this noise, you will always be on the defensive, and your life will be shaped by other people's priorities instead of your own. You have to learn to pause, to ask yourself, does this deserve my attention? Does this help me get closer to who I want to be? Or is it just pulling me away? And if the answer doesn't align with your mission, you let it go. The beauty of this mindset is that it frees you from the constant pressure to respond to everything. You are no longer enslaved to every text, every opinion, every negative comment. You begin to operate from a place of power instead of reaction. You understand that you are not obligated to engage in every debate, to prove yourself to every critic, or to attend to every issue that lands in your lap. There's a quiet strength in letting something pass without giving it any part of you. That silence is not weakness, it's control. The truth is, life will always be filled with distractions, and most of them will seem urgent in the moment. But urgency is often an illusion. Just because something is loud doesn't mean it's important. You have to develop the discipline to recognize the difference. The more selective you are with your attention, the more you can pour yourself into the things that matter most. Your growth, your relationships, your goals, your peace of mind. When you stop scattering your attention on the trivial, you suddenly have more of yourself available for the things that truly deserve you. It's not always easy. There will be people who take your selective focus personally. They'll accuse you of being distant, of not caring, of thinking you're better than them. But what they don't see is that you are protecting your capacity for what truly matters. You're choosing to invest your attention where it counts. The people who truly respect and understand you will value that about you. The ones who don't will try to pull you back into the chaos you've stepped away from. This is where your strength is tested. Can you stay firm in your boundaries when the pressure to break them is high? Can you remain focused when the world demands you scatter your attention? The discipline of ignoring what doesn't matter is a form of self-respect. It's a declaration that your energy is precious and that you refuse to waste it on things that have no real impact on your life. It's knowing that your attention is one of the most valuable currencies you have, and you will spend it only where it creates true returns. This is not selfishness. This is wisdom, and the more you practice it, the stronger and clearer you become. Because in the end, you cannot give your best to what matters if you are constantly drained by what doesn't. You cannot be fully present for the opportunities that can change your life if you are still tangled in the noise of things that should have been left behind. The moment you start treating your attention as something sacred, you begin to see your life shift in powerful ways. The distractions lose their grip on you. The petty conflicts fade into the background, and what remains is a life lived with intention, direction, and strength. Selective ignoring is a strength, not weakness. People often misunderstand this concept because they confuse silence with surrender or a lack of response with a lack of capability. The truth is, it takes far more strength to withhold your attention than to give it freely to everything that demands it. Weakness is being pulled in every direction by other people's noise, opinions, and provocations. Strength is standing still, unshaken, and choosing exactly where to direct your focus. It's a conscious act of self-control, and it requires discipline to resist the temptation of reacting to every little thing. In a world that constantly tells you to speak up, respond instantly, and always have an opinion, choosing not to engage becomes a form of quiet rebellion, a way of reclaiming your own authority over your energy. True strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the calm, steady refusal to let the outside world dictate how you feel or what you do. When you practice selective ignoring, you're not running away from confrontation. You're making a calculated decision about whether something is worth your time and effort. That decision comes from a place of awareness, where you've measured the value of engaging versus the cost of your attention. When you know who you are and what matters to you, most provocations become irrelevant. They're simply not worth disturbing your peace for. There is an inner power in letting things slide without feeling the need to justify yourself. The ability to ignore without resentment means you've outgrown the need for constant validation. You understand that your worth is not determined by how quickly you respond to criticism or how actively you defend yourself. You stop chasing the illusion that if you just explain yourself enough, everyone will understand you. That's not how life works. Not everyone will understand your vision, and that's okay. You weren't put here to convince them. You were put here to live it. Strength through selective ignoring is not about being passive or indifferent. It's about being strategic with your attention. Every ounce of energy you spend reacting to things that don't matter is energy stolen from the things that do. It's about asking yourself, if I give this my time, will it serve my purpose or will it drain me? This mindset keeps you from being pulled into emotional traps, arguments designed to frustrate you, drama that thrives on your involvement, and opinions from people who have no investment in your success. When you realize that your focus is the most valuable tool you own, you start protecting it with the same intensity you'd protect anything precious. People may try to test your boundaries. They may poke, provoke, and pressure you to respond. That's when the real strength of selective ignoring is put to the test. Because it's easy to stay silent when there's nothing challenging you. But when someone is actively trying to pull you into their chaos, the urge to defend yourself can be overwhelming. Strength is taking a breath, recognizing that their chaos is not your responsibility, and refusing to step into their arena. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to set the record straight for every false narrative about you. The truth doesn't need constant defending. It stands whether you fight for it or not. Another reason selective ignoring is a strength is because it trains you to live above the noise. It teaches you emotional discipline. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. The world rewards reaction. It thrives on getting people to click, respond, argue, and engage impulsively. But reaction is weakness disguised as activity. It keeps you busy but unproductive. Strength is staying anchored, keeping your mind on the bigger picture, and not letting the noise pull you off course. It's the ability to rise above the distraction and hold your focus like a compass pointing toward your true direction. The more you practice it, the more you notice a shift in your inner state. You become calmer, more composed, and harder to provoke. Your mind becomes clearer because it's no longer cluttered with every little thing thrown your way. You stop wasting mental energy on things that have no real bearing on your future. That mental clarity allows you to move with more intention and confidence. People begin to notice that you're not easily rattled, and that in itself becomes a form of quiet influence. They realize they can't control you with words, emotions, or distractions. There is also a deep sense of freedom that comes with this strength. You no longer feel chained to the expectations of others or trapped in cycles of reaction. You can walk away from conversations, comments, and situations without feeling like you've lost something. That's because you've gained something far more valuable. You've gained control over your own focus. You've freed yourself from the exhausting need to constantly respond, explain, or defend. You've built an inner fortress where your peace is untouchable unless you choose to open the gates. Of course, this doesn't mean you ignore everything. Strength is knowing the difference between what is worth addressing and what is not. It's knowing when your voice will create change and when it will only feed the noise. It's about making that distinction quickly and confidently without guilt. You save your responses for the moments that truly matter, where your words can create real impact. Everything else, you let it pass. This selectivity not only preserves your energy, it also amplifies your influence. When you speak less but with more intention, people listen more closely. Selective ignoring also reshapes the way you view conflict. You stop seeing every disagreement as a battle that must be won. Instead, you recognize that some conflicts are simply distractions designed to pull you away from your real mission. And when you stop engaging in every battle, you realize how much time and energy you were wasting before. You start channeling that energy into building, creating, and moving forward. You begin to see that the path to success is not just about adding more effort, it's about removing the things that drain you. Over time, you become less concerned with what people say about you and more concerned with what you are building. You learn that the opinions of those who don't contribute to your growth are irrelevant to your progress. This mindset creates a level of mental resilience that is difficult to shake. You operate from a place of power because you know that your energy is under your control and no one can take it without your permission. And that is why selective ignoring is not a weakness. It is a powerful, deliberate choice that allows you to live on your terms, free from the chaos that consumes so many others. Your mind is sacred ground. It is the command center of your life, the place where every decision, every reaction, every choice is born. Everything you allow inside it shapes your reality, your mood, your confidence, and your direction. And yet, most people guard their homes, their possessions, and their money more fiercely than they guard their own thoughts. They leave their mind open to anyone and anything, random opinions, toxic conversations, negative news, gossip, and criticism. Without realizing it, they let the world dump its garbage into their mental space and then wonder why they feel heavy, drained, and unmotivated. The truth is, if you do not protect your mind, everything else you try to protect will eventually crumble. Treat your mind like a fortress. That means being deliberate about what you allow in. Just as you wouldn't hand a stranger the keys to your home, you shouldn't give people free access to your thoughts, your self-image, and your emotional state. Not every voice deserves to be heard in your head. Not every piece of information deserves a place in your mental library. You have to start asking yourself, does this strengthen me or weaken me? Does this align with my values or pull me away from them? If the answer is no, it doesn't belong in your mind. Guarding your mind begins with awareness. Most people consume on autopilot. They scroll endlessly, listen to whoever is talking, and absorb whatever is loudest. This is dangerous because the human mind is like fertile soil. It will grow whatever you plant. If you feed it with negativity, self-doubt, and fear, it will produce more of the same. If you feed it with discipline, courage, and possibility, it will produce ideas, solutions, and opportunities. You cannot expect a healthy, strong, focused mind if you keep filling it with low-quality content. You are the gatekeeper, and you decide what gets in. This also means being careful about who you spend time with. People are like software. You download parts of their mindset without even realizing it. If you're around people who constantly complain, criticize, or doubt everything, that mindset will start to program your own thinking. If you spend time with people who are driven, solution-focused, and resilient, you'll start adopting their patterns of thought. Your environment is a direct reflection of what will eventually grow inside you. Guarding your mind sometimes means limiting time with those who pollute your mental space, even if they're people you care about. It also means setting boundaries with yourself. You have to be intentional about how you start your day, what you consume, and what you focus on. If the first thing you do when you wake up is scroll through social media, you are handing over your mental state to whatever random piece of content shows up first. If you start your morning with negativity, it will follow you through the day. But if you start with clarity, reading something that inspires you, writing down your goals, or simply taking a moment to breathe, you are telling your mind what's important before the world has a chance to decide for you. The mind is also deeply sensitive to repetition. The thoughts you dwell on most often become your beliefs, and your beliefs shape your actions. This is why you have to be careful about the stories you tell yourself. If you constantly repeat to yourself that you're not ready, not capable, or not enough, you will live in a way that reflects those beliefs. If you tell yourself you are resourceful, capable, and resilient, you will find ways to prove that right. The words you think matter just as much as the words you speak. Guard them. Guarding your mind also involves knowing when to disconnect. Information overload is real, and it can quietly drain your mental energy without you noticing. There is a constant stream of news, opinions, and updates designed to keep you hooked. But you are not obligated to be plugged in 24/7. Sometimes protecting your mind means shutting it all off, closing the laptop, putting the phone down, and giving your brain space to breathe. In that quiet, your own thoughts have a chance to surface, and you can reconnect with what truly matters to you. This level of protection will not always be understood by others. Some will think you're avoiding reality when in truth you're simply curating it. They might see it as selfishness, but it's actually self-respect. By guarding your mind, you are making sure that you have the clarity and strength to show up fully for the things and people that truly matter. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't lead a meaningful life with a polluted mind. The more you protect your mental space, the more you realize how much unnecessary noise you used to tolerate. You'll notice that you're calmer, more focused, and less reactive. Problems that used to overwhelm you will feel smaller because your mind will have the space to find solutions instead of drowning in panic. You'll find yourself more creative because your thoughts aren't competing with constant clutter. And most importantly, you'll feel a stronger sense of control over your life because you're no longer letting just anyone or anything influence your thinking. Your mind is your greatest asset. Every success you will ever have begins as a thought. Every problem you solve starts as an idea in your head. Every dream you pursue is first born in your imagination. That is why it is sacred ground. If you want to live with intention, if you want to build something meaningful, if you want to stand strong no matter what comes your way, you have to defend that ground with everything you have. Once you understand its value, you will never again allow just anything to take root there. Alignment requires courage. It's easy to talk about knowing your purpose, living your truth, and following your values, but the reality is that doing so will often cost you something. It might cost you relationships with people who prefer the old version of you. It might cost you opportunities that look good on the surface, but don't align with who you truly are. It might cost you approval from those who want you to fit into their expectations. And in a world where so many people are desperate to be liked, approved of, and understood, walking away from what doesn't align takes a rare kind of strength. Courage in alignment means being willing to stand alone when necessary. When you choose to live in a way that is true to your values, you will inevitably face moments where others won't understand or support you. They may question your choices, criticize your decisions, or try to convince you to take a different path. It takes courage to stay firm when the voices around you are trying to pull you in another direction. It takes courage to trust that the path you've chosen, even if it's unpopular or misunderstood, is still the right one for you. This kind of courage is not loud or aggressive. It's quiet and steady. It's the calm conviction that comes from knowing you've made your choices with intention. You're not reacting to pressure or chasing trends. You're moving with purpose. That doesn't mean you won't feel fear or doubt. You will. But courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act in spite of it. Every time you choose alignment over approval, you're building that courage muscle. You're proving to yourself that your integrity matters more than temporary comfort. There will be moments when alignment feels lonely. Not everyone is meant to walk with you to your destination. Some people will leave when they realize you're no longer living in a way that benefits them. Others will drift away when they see that your values no longer match theirs. This is part of the process, and while it can be painful, it's also necessary. You cannot hold on to every relationship and still expect to grow into the person you're meant to be. Alignment will filter out what no longer belongs in your life, and you have to be brave enough to let those things go without chasing after them. Courage also means setting boundaries that protect your alignment. You will have to say no to things that might be tempting in the moment, but take you off course in the long run. You'll have to decline opportunities that aren't a true fit, even if they come with money, attention, or recognition. You'll have to walk away from conversations, environments, and habits that don't match who you're becoming. And perhaps, hardest of all, you'll have to stand your ground when others try to push past those boundaries. People often test your resolve to see if you really mean what you say. The more you show them that your alignment is non-negotiable, the more respect you'll earn, not necessarily from everyone, but from yourself most of all. Another layer of courage in alignment is facing the truth about yourself. When you start living in alignment, you have to be honest about where you've been living out of alignment. That means acknowledging your own mistakes, weaknesses, and moments of compromise. It's not easy to confront the ways you've allowed fear, comfort, or convenience to steer your choices. But growth starts with truth, and truth requires bravery. Once you see where you've been out of sync, you can start making changes that bring you closer to the life you're meant to live. This courage will be tested most in moments of conflict. There will be times when standing in alignment creates tension with others. They might want you to bend, to give in, or to soften your stance so things are easier for them. And while compromise has its place, there are core values and principles that should never be negotiated. It's in these moments that your courage is most visible, when you choose the harder path, because it's the right one, even if it costs you in the short term. Living in alignment can also mean going against tradition, culture, or the way things have always been done. It takes courage to challenge the status quo, especially if it's deeply ingrained in the people around you. You may face criticism, judgment, or even rejection for doing things differently. But if your choices are grounded in integrity, authenticity, and a vision for a better future, then the discomfort is worth it. Every major change in history started with someone who was willing to step out of line and walk in their own truth, despite the pressure to conform. Courage in alignment is also about patience. Sometimes you will make a choice that feels right for you, but the results won't show up immediately. In those moments, it's tempting to doubt yourself and return to the path that everyone else says is safer. But alignment is not about quick wins. It's about building a life that is sustainable, meaningful, and authentic. It requires you to hold your ground through uncertainty, to trust that the seeds you've planted will grow in their own time, and to resist the urge to abandon your path just because it's not producing instant rewards. You will also discover that alignment often requires you to do less, not more. We live in a culture that glorifies business and constant activity, but alignment is about intentional action. It's about removing the things that drain your energy so you can give more to the things that truly matter. This can be challenging because doing less can make you feel like you're not keeping up with the pace of the world. But courage means trusting that your pace, your priorities, and your process are exactly what they need to be, regardless of what anyone else is doing. Over time, courage and alignment becomes less about single, dramatic acts and more about daily choices. It's the decision to consistently speak the truth, to stay true to your word, to protect your peace, and to live in a way that reflects your deepest values. It's refusing to betray yourself for approval or convenience. It's understanding that the temporary discomfort of staying in alignment is nothing compared to the long-term cost of abandoning it. And it's knowing that while this path is not always easy, it is the only one that will lead you to a life that feels whole, real, and entirely your own. Focus on what truly matters. Life will present you with an endless list of things you could do, countless directions you could take, and a never-ending stream of demands on your time and attention. If you try to do it all, you will find yourself scattered, overwhelmed, and burned out, with very little to show for your efforts. The real power lies in deciding what truly matters and pouring yourself into those few priorities with clarity and commitment. This means identifying your core values, your long-term vision, and the handful of goals that actually move your life forward, and then letting go of everything else that pulls you away from them. The challenge is that the things that matter most are often quieter than the noise of the urgent but unimportant. You will be bombarded with distractions disguised as opportunities, with requests that seem small but add up to massive drains on your time, with problems that look like they need your attention right now but have no lasting impact on your life. If you are not careful, you will spend your days reacting instead of creating, responding instead of leading, and living according to other people's priorities instead of your own. Focusing on what truly matters requires you to rise above that noise and deliberately choose where to place your energy. This begins with clarity. You have to know what matters to you before you can focus on it. That means asking yourself hard questions. What do I truly want my life to stand for? What am I willing to commit years of my life to building? What are the relationships, goals, and values I refuse to compromise on? Without that clarity, it's too easy to get pulled in 100 different directions. But once you have it, you can measure every decision against it. If something aligns with your values and your vision, it's worth your time. If it doesn't, no matter how tempting, you let it go. Focusing on what truly matters also means accepting that you cannot please everyone. When you choose to prioritize certain things, you are by default choosing not to prioritize others. This will disappoint some people, frustrate others, and even confuse those who don't understand your vision. But focus requires trade-offs. You cannot give your full attention to everything. The sooner you accept that, the freer you will be to give your best to the few things that deserve it. Another part of this discipline is learning to say no. Not a hesitant, half-apologetic no, but a clear, confident no that reflects your commitment to what's most important. Every yes you give to something insignificant is a no to something meaningful. Every time you agree to something just to avoid conflict or discomfort, you are stealing time from the priorities that actually matter. Saying no is not selfish. It's the only way to protect the time and energy you need to give your best to the things that truly matter. This kind of focus also requires the ability to sustain attention over the long term. It's not enough to give something your energy for a few days or weeks. The most important things in life, building a meaningful career, cultivating deep relationships, mastering a skill, living according to your values, require years of consistent effort. Distractions will try to pull you away. And sometimes the things that matter most won't give you instant results. That's when patience becomes a critical part of focus. You have to trust the process enough to keep showing up, even when progress feels slow or invisible. Focusing on what truly matters also means being intentional with your daily actions. Every day, you are faced with choices about how to spend your time. If you are not deliberate, it's easy to fill your day with low-value activities that make you feel busy but don't move you closer to your goals. Being intentional means asking yourself regularly, is what I'm doing right now contributing to what matters most? If the answer is no, you either adjust or remove it. This requires a level of self-awareness and honesty that not everyone is willing to practice, but it's the only way to ensure that your life reflects your true priorities. You will also need to protect your focus from the constant intrusion of technology, social media, and endless streams of information. In a world that is designed to capture and monetize your attention, focus has become a rare and valuable skill. You cannot expect to give your best to what matters if you are constantly checking your phone, responding to every notification, and letting your attention be pulled in 100 directions. Protecting your focus may mean turning off alerts, setting boundaries for when and how you check messages, and carving out distraction-free time to work on your most important goals. Another important part of focusing on what matters is letting go of perfectionism. If you get stuck waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect conditions, you'll never make meaningful progress. What matters most is forward movement, even if it's messy or imperfect. Focusing on progress instead of perfection allows you to keep taking steps toward your vision without being paralyzed by fear or self-doubt. You'll also find that the more you focus on what matters, the more your life simplifies. The unnecessary falls away. You stop overcommitting, overcomplicating, and overthinking. You start making choices more quickly because you know what's important and what isn't. This simplicity brings a kind of peace that comes from knowing you are not being pulled in every direction, but are instead moving steadily toward the life you actually want. Perhaps the most powerful effect of focusing on what truly matters is the sense of fulfillment it creates. You may not be doing as many things as you once were, but the things you are doing carry deeper meaning. You're not scattering your energy across endless activities. You're pouring it into a few priorities that bring real value to your life and the lives of others. That depth of focus creates a sense of purpose that no amount of business can replace. It's important to remember that focus is a daily choice. It's not something you decide once and never think about again. Life will constantly try to pull you away from what matters, and you have to keep choosing to return to it. Some days you'll get it right, other days you'll get distracted. But the discipline is in coming back again and again to the priorities you've committed to. Over time, this persistence compounds into results that others will see as success, but that you'll know is simply the natural outcome of choosing every day to focus on what truly matters.